Hello, everybody. Thanks for staying after the previous presentation. So what I'm going to talk about today is a presentation I call Show Me the Money. And what I'm going to make is a compelling case why everybody should start investigating in digital signage right now. Now is the time. It's right before the big boom, and you want to get an early start. So the way that print solution providers can get involved in digital signage today is what you have to look at is a different type of model, business model. It's called the network operator. So it's kind of like a print sign provider, but instead you're offering digital signage solutions on an ongoing basis. What's a network operator look like? Well, a network operator essentially to your customers, what you provide them are screens, a media player, you need power, and you need internet. With those four things combined, you basically have a digital signage installation. The services around it involve mounting and permanently installing the screens, and then monitoring it remotely and managing the content that's going to be on those screens. That is the network operator business model. And what's interesting about it is the recurring monthly revenue that you can get from following that model. So I'm going to give a few key trends in the industry that are outside of what people at this show are talking about, that come from other industries, that I'm going to explain to you about why now is the time for you guys to enter and why these are strong indicators why you should do that. If you do want to know more, by the way, I don't know if it's working. Here you go. If you do want to know more about what it is to be a network operator, we have a free white paper on BroadSign.com. If you go to the web page and you wait, this thing is going to rotate, and then you could click on the download. And it's a 10-page white paper that explains all the things you need to know, strategies, thought process, all the details behind what it is to be a network operator, and how to do it successfully and profitably as well. So without further ado, I'm going to talk about the major trends in the industry that are pointing to why now is the time to invest. If you guys wait a year or two, especially 3, by then it'll be a mass market product and you won't have any competitive edge. Now's the time. So one major reason why you should be looking at it now is what we call the Android invasion. So in digital signage, you need a media player to power the screen. And the media player is basically what receives the content and plays it back in a loop and projects it on the screen. In the past, what you need to do is actually buy a PC with Windows, install software, figure out how to take that PC and install it somewhere where it won't get dust, it won't have problems, where it won't overheat, and also needs to be accessible if the hardware fails so you could replace it. Well, what Android allowed us to do, it's very interesting, is we took the guts of a mobile phone, which is actually in some cases more powerful than a PC, has less power draw, has many, many advantages, and we put it in a box, just like a media player. And so what you're seeing now is an emergence of many of these Android-based media players for a fraction of the cost of the Intel alternatives. For example, BroadSign has launched one. We call it BroadSign Express. It's a €109 media player if you install it within 60 days. But there are many others in the market that I think everybody should investigate in this room. And what it allows you to do is that significantly lowers the cost. An equivalent PC would have been about €600. So it drops down almost 6-fold. And also, everything's contained. There are no fans. It doesn't overheat. Everything's included with all the same functionality as a PC. Gives you all the benefits of not having to worry about the hardware. And if it does break, well, the replacement cost is very, very low. What I'm going to show you is a video as to why actually Android is the future of this space. Just a little tidbit, for example. So BroadSign launched its Express in August last year. And since then, we sold 8,000 units. In other words, BroadSign is now at 10% Android power in less than a year. So that's how big this trend is. It's a big deal. It's changing the whole face of the industry, and people on this floor could take advantage of this. If you wouldn't mind playing the video. This is why Android actually is good for the future. It has all these potential benefits for this industry. The future is bright for Android-based digital signage hardware. There's some really cool components in mobile phones which could have interesting usage in digital signage, such as GPS locators, voice recognition, face-detecting cameras, Wi-Fi hotspots, 4G connectivity, and gyroscopic sensors that can really change the industry rapidly and for the better. Android also has another ace up its sleeve: apps in the App SDK. It's theoretically possible to play Android apps as content in the loop alongside full motion video, Flash, and HTML content. The Android App SDK is far richer and more capable than HTML or Flash. Android apps can access the disk and network with no limitations and can tap into every aspect of the hardware platform, including 3D hardware acceleration. Keep an eye out for developments in this area. So as I explained in the video there are lots of future potentials for what Android could do for this space as it relates to what type of really cool interactive experiences that you can make, have with the actual users or the people in front of the screens, the viewers. So that's one main driver, the Android invasion. Another one is the print to digital conversion. So that's part of what's happening here at FESPA, and also we were at the International Sign Association in Orlando a few weeks ago, and digital signage was actually a pretty big segment of what people were talking about at that print show across the pond. So I'm going to talk about a little bit, not so much in our space here in the print sign print solutions providers, but more in this area of out of home. So out of home, like the JCDecaux, the Clear Channels of the world, Titan, Ocean Outdoor, those people, Streur even, they're investing and transitioning their big print billboards to digital signs powered by LED outdoor technology. And what's interesting is all the cool new creative capabilities that are possible when you transition from print to digital. Print is always going to be here, but what digital allows is a whole other range of functionality. Now, the reason why there's a major shift is the new increased revenue potential. I'm going to talk about that and also about what's happening in that space on the advertising side in this video, if you wouldn't mind playing the video. I've heard from some print manufacturers that they're hesitant to dive into the digital market because they feel that Pro AV has an unfair advantage. I don't see it that way. The Pro AV industry represents the early adopters of digital signage technology, whereas print has more of a hold with brands entering the digital signage space because it's simply a much larger and more mature industry. The fact is, their apprehension notwithstanding, it appears that the print industry is making the move to digital in some way or another, despite how unsettling transitions can be. Those who still remain true to conventional signage recognize the high revenue opportunities generated by signs that display more than one ad during a specific period of time. As a result, others have found ways to transition that make sense to their product portfolios. People are drawn to the ease of maintaining and monitoring digital products, as well as the flexible content scheduling and opportunities to amplify digital screens with mobile and social interaction. Every barrier to entry is, one by one, being torn down. Deploying a digital signage network used to be a large-scale science project. Hardware costs were very high, and the technology was cumbersome. Today, all those issues are resolved or in the process of resolution. The one remaining gap being the lack of a mass-market product that marries hardware, software, and content, similar to the revolution Apple brought to the mobile phone market. When digital signage networks were first entering the scene a decade ago, operating systems were complicated and hardware was expensive. The emergence of systems such as Windows 7 and 8 mean the technology is more user-friendly, and the falling prices for digital hardware make setting up a digital network even more accessible to businesses of all sizes. So to go back to how I started the presentation, now is the time to invest in learning all of this stuff, because in about a couple of years, that mass market product will be there, and then that'll be when your learning process starts. Now's the time to start learning and investing and trying to get a digital signage network out there. That'll give you the competitive advantage when the explosion comes. So I'm going to talk a little bit about mobile and content possibilities a little bit later in the presentation. So the second big indicator I'm talking about, the first one was the Android invasion. The second one is the print to digital transition, which is happening with or without us. It's going to happen. So the next major trend is programmatic buying. I don't know if you guys have heard about what programmatic buying is, but it's essentially like Google advertising, where you can bid on ad space and the highest bidder gets played, in this case on the web. But what we're talking about is that concept being brought to screens. So if you're a network operator and you're deploying a whole bunch of screens on behalf of your customers, and part of the agreement with you and your customers is that you have access to some of that airtime, it would be possible for you to take some of this loop time that's on the loop and put it up for the highest bidder on a programmatic buying platform. Today it's still very early stages, but I'm going to talk in this video about the evolution of the different providers. So there have been several that have tried and have failed, and now there's a couple that look like they may succeed. So if you wouldn't mind cueing the video, it's a little bit of the history of programmatic buying in digital signage, also known as digital place-based. Seesaw was the first to bring the programmatic media buying concept to market, and did so by addressing an initial pain point of digital place-based buying, being volume. Individual networks are small and often treated as one-offs or special projects. Seesaw fixed this problem by aggregating networks so they warranted fiscal attention, and was able to do so however broad or specific the targeted audience. With that being said, the heterogeneous nature of networks meant that manual campaign execution was extremely difficult to scale. The second main entrant to market took Seesaw's concept and added integration to achieve automated campaign execution. OurView automated the task of creating and providing various content formats to networks and monitoring their performance. Despite this success, OurView was unable to integrate with all networks given the plethora of software platforms available and the lack of standards at hand. NEC's VukuNet came along and solved OurView's integration issue by creating a universal Flash container that could bring ads to almost any software platform. With that being said, VukuNet's product was created by a display manufacturer that didn't quite understand the agency world and had a hard time finding the magic ingredient of programmatic media buying: sizable ad buys. Vistar Media was able to resolve VukuNet's challenges at attracting media buyers due to its pedigree of having built a programmatic buying platform for online called Invite Media, which was sold to Google. Vistar knew the ins and outs of agency buyers very well. So instead of a Flash container, Vistar published an open standard API, which in many cases leads to superior ad playback performance. It also built an interface comparable to buyer trading desks, allowing networks to tap into budgets other than due, such as broadcast and digital dollars. So those 3 videos, by the way, are samples from videos from the Basics of BroadSigning series that you can go, if you go to BroadSign.com, you can see this video series. It's a bunch of educational videos about topics like that, about major trends that are happening in the space. So the third one, the third trend and how it's going to affect this space is when advertising dollars start coming into this space through an automated system such as that, where you could give up some of your airtime, you're going to see there's going to be a huge explosion, and then everybody and their cousin is going to be trying to compete with you to do digital signage. Now, we don't want the print industry to be behind the AV industry, who are maybe better positioned to launch screens, but the print industry has the customer base that they should be maintaining and keeping, and you need that competitive edge to maintain that to be able to provide this solution. So it's very important to be investing in this. So the reason why customers are going to be demanding more and more digital signage from you, and the reason why advertisers are asking for more and more digital, is because what we have here, the Harvey Media Matrix. So the Harvey Media Matrix was invented by Tim Harvey, who's the director of digital at JCDecaux in the UK. And the whole concept here is it's what you can do with static print and what's the differentiator in terms of what you can do with digital. So he created a matrix which looks at what's possible from 2 dimensions. One of them is the dimension of reaching the customer, and the other one is the dimension of what type of campaign you want to be running. So at what level of strategy that you want to run. So on the how you reach the customer, there's the eyeball, which is just basically reaching them. Similar to if you look at our video wall screen right around the corner there. So if you look at it, that's an eyeball. Second screen is when you tell somebody or you engage somebody to use their mobile phone. And finally, interaction is when you get somebody to go and somehow interact in some way or another. At the first level, it's linear. So that is achievable with print, right? You can get people to look at it. You can get people to use their mobile phones. You can also get them to go to a dispenser or do something of that nature to interact with that ad. But then when you get into a tactical level of campaign, that becomes a little bit more difficult. Okay, with eyeball and wayfinding, yes, you can actually do wayfinding with print, absolutely no problem, and it's very effective. But That's where digital starts coming in, where it could be a little bit more interactive. So when you get to the second screen and you have a localized QR code or local NFC tag where there's a feedback mechanism where that's attached to actually the campaign, the content that's playing on the screen, and you can measure that this content played and therefore somebody interacted with his phone, and there's a digital tracking of that, that becomes digital only. And then the rest of the boxes are digital only, such as interaction and tactical. So a digital kiosk, touch screen, or gesture control, that's digital only that's possible. Finally, dynamic, changing the content based on the time of day, pulling price promotions automatically, getting people to interact with social media, and that goes up on the screen, or the types of buzz displays. And finally, experiential, gaming type approaches, that only becomes possible with digital. So these types of things are where advertisers are looking, and this is going to be the demand creation. The demand's going to start here, and it's going to trickle down to your customers, and your customers are going to then start asking for screens, because you can't put somebody's Facebook feed or Twitter feed on a print a device. So it's just inevitable. I'm not saying print's going to go away. It's going to still stay there because you need both. But it's only possible to do that stuff with digital. So for mobile media, what becomes interesting with digital and mobile media interaction is the concept for the advertiser and for the retailer or the local customer to track that a certain message played, and because of that message, somebody interacted with their phone and potentially even fed back more stuff to the screen, such as an interaction. So somebody says, tweet this hashtag, and then based on tweeting that hashtag, their profile pictures could show up on the screen, or it could go, that message could go through an approval process to then go to the screen. So mobile phones, which everybody's playing with their mobile phone anyways, can now feedback with the screen. Very interesting possibilities of this space. Another thing is what we call the app Splosion. So it's, you know, most digital signage that you'll see today is basically just videos or images being put up on a screen in a loop, which is great. However, what's possible with digital signage is the ability to push smart content. So smart content is content that has logic built in, such as content built in HTML5 or with Flash, or even native applications such as what I was speaking about in the video, playing an Android app on the screen. So what those apps allow you to do is, with logic, have content that changes its message based on the weather, based on interaction through some other mechanism, integration with social media, integration with a point of sale so you can see what products are being sold. All this stuff is being done today, and what we're going to see, I think, in the next few years is companies that come in that their specialization is to create content that is smart, that they're going to sell to the same customers that BroadSign has and say, hey, if you run BroadSign, you should use this content. It'll automatically pull news headlines from the cloud, and you don't have to actually schedule the news headlines manually every single time. It's all automated for you, and it's only $10 or 10 euros per month per player, something of that nature. We're going to see some really cool apps come out of this. There are already some very interesting apps, such as I mentioned news and weather type content. If you go to bluefoxcontent.com, they have a whole bunch of content that's super nice looking, and it's all automated. There's also another company called Quividi that they use web cameras to measure who's looking at the screen, and they can actually tell you how many people are looking at the screen. This is available now. It's actually mature technology. It's been out for 5-7 years. So the app Splosion is why this space is going to get very interesting. From the advertiser standpoint and the retailer standpoint, and actually everybody who wants to measure the effectiveness of digital signage standpoint, these 5 pillars of accountability, as we call them, are the key to why digital signage is the future big media explosion. The first one was Google brought search, which is basically demand media. I want something. You go to Google and it tells you the answer, but it also tells you along the side what people want you to know. People want you to know about what you're looking for. Facebook and Twitter, what they monetize is another old concept, which is the word of mouth concept. So what digital screens allow you to do is to monetize the broadcast concept, because broadcast is disappearing. People don't watch TV anymore. It's phasing out. It's all going to on-demand TV. It's all going to poll-based technology. So the only way they could learn about things, new things, in a broadcast fashion is through signage, traditional signage, and also digital signage. What digital signage adds that's an extra level is these 5 pillars of accountability. So I'm a technical background guy. I started as a programmer, and now I run marketing for BroadSign. As a technical guy going into marketing, I'm looking at the numbers all the time. And these numbers are basically the marketing funnel. And we could take the marketing funnel, which Google does automatically on the web, and we could provide it for digital signage. The first one there is display. So that's proving that the ad played on the screen at a specific time in a specific location. After that, there's the impression. So you could prove that that ad played and somebody watched it or multiple people watched it. That's using technology such as I was mentioning earlier, Quivity and their automated audience measurement, where they actually track your face and your gender, and they could associate that. Then the next level is, okay, not only did it play, somebody looked at it, somebody interacted with it. So that could be, come touch the screen and interact with that. That's one possibility. Another one is, use your mobile phone and tweet something. That gets measured and associated to the campaign. So you know that it played 1,000 times, 10,000 people saw it, 1,000 people interacted with it. Great. Well, I did another campaign and 2,000 people interacted with it. So that second campaign was better than the first at getting people to interact. Once they interact, then it's up to you to try to get them to submit information to say, hey, give me your email, your name, sign up for a newsletter, sign up for this or that. And then you actually go from saying 1,000 people contacted me to John Smith contacted me, Daniel Parisien contacted me, Stephanie Gutnick contacted me, and you get all these different people and you actually know who interacted, and then you could what's called retarget them later. And then finally there's ultimate, which is sale. So you say, I spent $1,000 to set up this screen. All the way at the end, I sold $10,000 worth of products. That's ultimately what they want. They want to know what it costs and how much money it's bringing them. But you could see at every step along the way where it's breaking down, so you could strategically change where you're going. This is where all the learning is going to happen. And this is why you need to get involved now, because there is no best practices. You can have this experience before everybody else does and get that much more of a story. The reason also why now is the time is that there are no standards today in terms of audience measurement, but they're emerging. So the DPLA is an industry association based in the United States, and it stands for the Digital Place-Based Advertising Association. They exist only for digital signage advertising, and they're developing and finalizing audience measurement guidelines or audience measurement standards. Another standard that's in the work is called the DISI standard. So DISI standard allows the networks to submit what type of content they could play, so that when programmatic buying becomes the mainstay, becomes a standard, then not only does the advertiser say this is the type of audience I want to reach, but they could also say, and based on the Harvey Media Matrix, what type of campaign they want to run. And based on those two things combined, the system will be able to say, hey, here are the screens that could support what you want. So hopefully you've picked a software platform and a hardware platform that's going to be able to be future safe and accept these types of campaigns that are coming for the programmatic buying platforms, and you can make that additional money, which is very interesting. So where we're at right now and where the battle's being fought all over the world is what we call the digital place-based arms race. It's the battle between the digital out-of-home providers and the agencies. The agencies who today could spend way less time and play a lot more media than going on a digital out-of-home network, which everything is custom and difficult. So because of the lack of standards, it is it's very onerous for the agencies to invest in digital out-of-home. That is changing right now because of programmatic buying, because of the print to digital transition, because of the learnings that are happening in the industry. And once, every time the agencies raise the bar, well, the digital out-of-home people meet that, and then the agencies raise the bar again. So it's this infinite arms race of it's not good enough, not good enough. But at the same time, the process is this space is quickly outpacing other digital media. I think digital out-of-home and digital place-based is the fastest or the second fastest medium in terms of growth today because of that. So this is a good thing for us. And There you go. One example of why this is the place to be is that last year, the Digital Place-Based Advertising Association did an experiment. And this experiment, the concept was, hey, agencies, you can, or Ford in this case, you can place ads during daytime television, which is what they do all the time. But if you place more money in daytime television, you're not going to get more results. You're just going to hit the same people more. So what they suggested to Ford was, hey, how about you take some of that budget, instead of playing the ad more time on TV, take just a small amount of that budget and play it on a whole bunch of screens near the places where your cars are sold. So in this case, it was a tri-state area thing. It was in New York, Connecticut, and New Jersey. And they said, let's play those ads at gas pumps. Let's play those ads in elevators, all over the place, in clubs, everywhere. Fitness areas, and the result was huge increase in results because these screens are reaching different types of people. They're reaching them at different places in their daily cycle. It's a great medium. It's going to represent a huge shift in how advertisers place advertising. So that's why this is the place to be, and this is the time to invest in it, because money is going to start flowing in this industry really quickly. So the next frontier, so where do we go from here? Android devices are just going to get cheaper and more powerful. Screens are just going to get cheaper. Installation is going to get more slick and beautiful, and design. Everything is going to be better and better. And at some point, a mass market explosion is going to happen, and screens are going to be everywhere. The question is, are you the people who are going to have the experience and the knowledge at that stage of explosion, or is some other industry or some other people going to have that experience and positioning? So I suggest you guys invest right now and look into it right now. We have a really great resources on BroadSign.com to get actual education. It's not only about selling our software. Yes, we have a software platform. It's very powerful. It's used by some of the biggest companies in the world, including JC&Co and others. I suggest you look into our software, but more so, the Everybody is Doing It white paper, I think, is a great guide to show you what the step-by-step things you have to think about: installation, monitoring, hardware selection, all these different things that are very important. And yeah, check us out. Well, thanks very much for your time. If there are any questions in the audience? No? Great. Feel free to come visit us. We're actually right here at the BroadSign booth, the giant video wall. So thanks very much for your time.